the next candidate I'm going to introduce you to, again, has a very similarly sounding office. But what's unique about this individual is she's the most qualified person. And again, I tell you, I hear this from candidates all the time. I'm very qualified. This person actually worked in this office, basically every position in this office before becoming the elected head of the office. And of course, when she got elected head of this office, they and I'm not going to say the ubiquitous they that did it, kind of pulled the rug out from under her and changed the nature of her office. So they took away about half of the responsibility, but I'll let her tell you all about that. Next up is Teneshia Hudspeth. So tell us your name and start with the basics. Where are you from?
All right. I am Teneshia Hudspeth, your Harris County Clerk. I'm an Austin native. I came here in 1999 to Houston to attend Texas Southern University. We have some more TSU Tigers in the house. I studied communications, broadcast journalism, PR, and marketing. In my junior year at TSU, it wasn't quite working when I was interning at the news stations and I was writing these great pieces and they were like taking it and saying, no, we kind of want you to go this way with the storyline. And the Mickey Leland Congressional Internship, which was a dual program with the University of Houston and TSU, I applied and I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but there's communications in everything, surely, right? I applied out of hundreds of folks between those two universities, and they took 8 in 2003 to Washington, D.C. So it took this little Texas girl to Washington, D.C. in the winter, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But by the time I left, I knew surely, and I worked for Congressman Chet Edwards, a Democrat, on the Hill, and he took me everywhere I could possibly go. He told me to keep a secret because I was one of the first interns that wrote a speech for him that he actually used in a budget hearing meeting. And so, you know, I gave a lot of those staffers a break for a whole semester, and was bit by the bug, obviously, and I was like, hey, I want to do communications in a major way. Led me back to Houston to finish my final year at TSU, and after finishing school, I knew I wanted to go in the direction of politics, and there was an opportunity in the county clerk's office. The county clerk at the time was Beverly Kaufman. If you've been around long enough, then you know that lady, and she was probably one of the most well-respected clerks here in Harris County across aisles, and she took a chance on this college girl, and 4 county clerks later, I'm still here. Yeah, so my entire adult life has been here in Harris County, Houston, so this is my second home. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there was one major county clerk that I became the closest with and really pushed me into leadership when I didn't have the opportunity to do that, and her name is Diane Trout. Now, when she told me way before she wasn't going to be clerk anymore, she says, you know, I really want you to be my chief deputy. And I thought, oh boy, you know, I've been behind the scenes for so long. And she says, now I don't promote people for them to stay in those positions long. But she didn't tell me how soon I would be pushed into this position. So that's a little bit about me, where I'm from, and how I ended up here.
That's good. Okay, so now you need to tell us about the office itself.
Yeah.
What are they now responsible for?
Yeah, very good question. So the rug was definitely pulled from under me when I decided to run in 2020. What I didn't mention is when I started working in the clerk's office, I was an admin assistant in public affairs. And 6 positions later, I did not ever imagine that I would actually be county clerk. But what it afforded me is to learn every nook and cranny of that office. And it's so much more than just elections, although I worked most of my career in elections and educated people all over this county on how to access the ballot box and what you can do to make the office more progressive. Right in the middle of my run, as I'm running for county clerk for all parts of the office, the last day of early voting in 2020. Now, I had campaigned all over the place. Every virtual meeting that would have me, every door with my mask could have me. And Friday, while I'm working as the chief deputy and running to be the county clerk to make sure that what you saw in elections happen in 2020 would continue throughout Harris County. And on that Friday, they had already agreed to separate the offices. But I thought surely I'd be a big part of that process to make sure it was seamless and it would be efficient. And on the Friday, last day of early voting, when nobody was paying attention because we were all working to get out the vote or we were running for election, they appointed an elections administrator. That was the Friday before I could get elected on election day. Could you imagine what that felt like for me? Or what it felt like for the people that kind of knew what was going on. And so leadership, meaning the Commissioners Court, decided that the elections process needed to be a nonpartisan office. Now, I don't completely disagree with that, but I do disagree with the way it was done because there was not a lot of buy-in and not a lot of education.
And the day of that meeting, there was another major event that happened. I can't remember what it was, but we were all at that other thing.
Yeah.
They did that Commissioners Court.
Some of you were working as election judges and poll workers and outside doing that. And so the way that it was done, I'll never agree with. And I say that everywhere I go. I don't care who's in the room, right? And so here we are, right? And
so what is it now that you're in charge of?
So the Harris County Clerk's office records all the major events of your life. If you live in Harris County, from the time you're born to you're making whatever your final decisions are and how you're going to handle your estate planning, you come through the county clerk's office. Here's the rundown. When you're born, you can get your birth certificate. When you get married, you get your marriage license from the county clerk's office. When you start a business, you file your DBA with the county clerk's office. DD 214s, any veterans in the house? Raise your hand, veterans. All right, we've got a couple in the house. You can file and record your DD 214 in the county clerk's office. We handle almost any and every record you could possibly think of from real property. If you have deeds, plats, maps, if you're a title company or an attorney or not, and you just live in Harris County, you come through my office to get those documents handled. We manage and record the records of Commissioners Court. Yes, the Commissioners Court and their marathon meetings. We get to record all that information and we provide it as public information. And so you want a really good office that's making sure they're transcribing these records well. Also, what you probably didn't know is every proclamation, contract, and action that's taken by the Commissioners Court, it is not official until the county clerk signs it. We maintain the records of the 4 civil courts and probate courts. And I'll talk a little bit about the great programs that we're putting in office toward that. But here's some things you don't know about the county clerk's office and the story of that. We house about 270 employees. Now, before we had elections, it was about 400, but we still have 270 employees. We have a downtown office and 10 annexes around this county. There is an annex in Humboldt area. How many of you have driven around Harris County and seen cattle on the side of the road? Or livestock, right? Well, believe it or not, we have filed animal brands in the county clerk's office. And right around rodeo time this year, every 10 years, those individuals who brand animals or lose cattle and want to go and figure out who's it belonged to, that's the county clerk's office. Also, here are the stories that you're not going to hear. When someone wants to get married, and this was so prevalent in 2020 during COVID, it's not always because they're happy and they're excited to get married. Some of those folks got married because they needed insurance to survive during 2020. Some of those folks call us and say, this is my last wish because they are terminally ill. And our clerks go to their homes or those hospital rooms to service those folks. Now, those are the real untold stories of deputy clerks in Harris County and what we're able to do. We have an archives of records that go back to the early 1800s. And our probate, we also service the MI ward. So those probate courts and our deputy clerks work and actually process mental illness cases and individuals that come there and help the probate courts with that work. And think about the increase in number in cases that we've experienced since the year of 2020. Overwhelming. And as soon as I get reelected, I'll be in court saying I need more money and I need more clerks so that we can really support that system as best as we possibly can.
Well, and an interesting note in Texas, so that you can have something fun to walk home and be angry about. You know, the Republican Party right now wants to get rid of licenses for people like plumbers and nail techs.
What?
And other, yeah. And so, yeah, imagine that we had no more licensing of those professions. That's what the Republican Party wants to do, and that is actively being pushed in Austin. And so that's one of these things where she sees how many licenses there are out there, and you can imagine if you did away with all of that. I mean, Incredible, incredible.
They'd have a lot of mad county clerks coming to the session, so that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So here are some of the great things that I've been able to do since being elected. So basic records like a birth certificate. Think about the stages sometimes if you're a working parent or individual who can't get off between Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and you need those records. So we now have it to where you can order your birth records online and get them in mail within 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
That means you can go on a cruise tomorrow
Yeah.
if you just get your...
Yeah, that's right. Cruises, whatever. Last year, I was thinking about, as a parent of a 6-year-old who's in elementary school, sometimes I bring him with me. Next time, the family event, he'll definitely be with me that day. And last August, he was starting kindergarten, and we needed to get the birth certificate. So I'm walking down the hall, I'm getting my birth certificate for my son, and I'm like, man, how many other parents need these records for their children? And this was, sort of in the middle of COVID. So we created something called Back to School Birth Certificate Saturdays. And we just took a chance on this, really. In a week, we planned 2 of those at 2 annex, one downtown and one annex office. So we called the state and we said, we need the system to work on the weekend. They were like, here goes Harris County again, doing something different, right? Always doing something different. But we opened our doors on a Saturday downtown, and guess what? People were lined up an hour before we opened those doors on a Saturday, right? Because working class folks can't get to our offices 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And then we did it again, and we went to one of our annexes off of Chimney Rock in Southwest Houston. And guess what? People were in line 2 hours before we opened our doors. And we service hundreds of folks. And so guess what? Back to School Birth Certificate is an annual event. And yes. Yeah, and it's really, my campaign slogan is an office that works for you. Not just that you're coming in to get service, that we're making it available to you in an unconventional way. And I have really great clerks that, look, I've worked in the office with them for a long time, so they trust me every step of the way, and they know I've kind of come through the ranks. So that's one of the many ways. Now, this year, we did it again. We've gotten donors who were able to get free birth certificates. They made donations. One of the fraternities here, 50 families got free birth certificates. Judge William Carter gave backpacks, and so now every year it's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to get bigger and bigger. So outside of birth certificates, we'll in October be kicking off something called estate planning. I talked about probates and wills and plats and deeds, and so we want to start seminars where we're educating our communities and don't wait till something happens or after the fact. Here's the tools that you need. And so we're going to get with other offices like Maryland's office. There's surely a way we could talk together about some of the different things we do, our probate court judges and attorneys, and in November hopefully get to combine something with veterans.
So now I know that this is no longer part of your office,
Yeah.
but you're an expert in
Sure.
voting and
Always ready.
how this works. So tell us what we need to worry about, pay attention to coming into November.
Yes. This is going to be one of the most pivotal elections that we will ever see in the history of elections, not just across our nation, but in the state of Texas. This really separates the downright hard Democrats from those who are straddling the fence, and our lives literally depend on it. The things you need to know about this office, although it has gone through change after change after change, and I'll tell you, if it wasn't for Diane Troutman getting countywide as soon as she hit foot in that office, we'd be in even more trouble. And so, again, she's changed the way that we do elections here, so that's saving us. No more turning somebody around because they're at the wrong precinct or polling location. But here are the things that you need to know. Is although this office has gone through change after change, you've seen many of news articles about who's qualified, who's not, and those sort of things. We do have a qualified elections administrator. Does he have a road ahead of him? Absolutely he does. He's come from another state into Texas, which is its own United States of Texas, right? And can that office make sure that the office runs well this November? I have full confidence that it can. But it cannot do that without our support. And what I mean by that is if you're an election worker or a poll worker or a judge, or if you are not, we need you to step up to serve. You all ensure that what's happening at the polling location, front face center, is making sure that every single voter that comes in there is able to cast a ballot. and not turned away. And best believe there are going to be many of Tea Partiers and everybody else that they named themselves outside every polling location, inside every polling location. Poll watchers have all these rights to not only intimidate, but almost shake up voters to want to turn around. So we need to step up to serve and be a part of that. I know there's voter registration efforts going on all over the place. Registering to vote is awesome. But if we don't get them to the polls, then we've got another topic that we have to talk about here. So in terms of that, yes, let's get past voter registration, but let's think strategically how we get people to the polls. But truly, if you can, that one day it is paid, step up to actually serve. That is what you truly need to know. And other than that, you should be saying vote the entire ballot, from the top to the bottom. Don't leave any stone unturned. And this time, I'm going to put Stan Stannard into retirement.
Before you sit down, since we do have the privilege of having her here, and we didn't ask her, but Diane, if you might want to come forward. Yeah. Diane. This is an unplanned part of the evening. So, Diane, why don't you say a few words and tell us about the office and about this person that you were working with.
You did this before me. You know how to do it.
And the importance of voting.
Yeah. Well, I could have done it without the world-class team that I had. She was the biggest part of that. But at every turn, we had pushback. Places you wouldn't believe we had pushback from. We had pushback. But what we had was a wonderful group of election workers too. Like she said, we count on you to step up because you are the ones that make elections happen. Yes, we are all running the elections, we're all behind the scenes, but it's you. It's every last one of the election workers that actually make it all happen. So, yes, countywide voting is very good too, but everything we have, all the strides we made, can easily be taken away. And in this election, she's right. It's all up for grabs.
All or nothing.
We've got to get the people out to vote. And we were just talking about that, Deborah and Maggie and I, on the way over. You know, yes, the voter registration is important, but we've already got huge numbers of Democrats registered to vote. They're at home. Or they can't get to the polls. They don't have a ride, or the kids are sick. So reach out. I would say reach out to your family, your friends, your contact list. Find those people who need help getting to the polls. That's the best bet. Get them to the polls. Also, if you're interested in working the polls, I know Kingwood Area Democrats has always been a big force for working the polls around the Kingwood area, Humble, all of this. That would help immensely. When Democratic voters walk up and see other people like them, they feel good. And like she said, Tenesia's right. The poll watchers will be out in full force. So I thank you for all you've done in the past for me getting me elected. Now we've got to get her re-elected.
So this is how you can find out everything about my campaign. This is my 5th event, so I'm tongue-tied at this point today. Since early this morning. You can find me on any social media platform, from Twitter to Instagram to TikTok to Facebook. Anyone that follows me knows I'm all over social media and have an incredible team at Teneshia 4HC. My website is TeneshiaHudspeth.com. I have push cards, I have signs. You can simply go to TeneshiaHudspeth.com and just sign up and tell me what you want to do. Do you want to get signs? Do you want to block walk? Do you want to do text messages from your very own home? You don't even have to leave for that. You can text message on behalf of the campaign, and you can make calls. So those are all the ways. I have one card that says all the services we provide, and one all about the campaign and how we're going to continue to make an office that works for you. Now, before I end, I want to do one thing.
Okay.
I was a cheerleader from junior high to high school. And because because I want to make sure that the crowd is still awake. We're going to try this. When I say Democrats, you say win. Democrats.
Win.
Democrats.
Win.
When I say Democrats, you say win.
Win.
Democrats.
Win.
Thank you all very much.
That was good.
First of all, you know as well as everybody,
Yeah.
you cannot cheer when you're sitting down in your chair.
That's right.
You gotta stand up. Stand up. Stretch, get the little stretchies.
I put the mic down and yell like I used to yell back in the day. And I'll be practicing my cheerleader jump because I'm going to jump out of the polling location. Well,